10-8 Fightcast, over 40 episodes deep now, officially. Wow. Yeah, it's pretty crazy that we've been doing that this long. But
and here you and I are, still not holding hands, still not publicly showing affection for each other. It's okay.
There's a table between us that represents our spiritual and emotional wall. But we did go on a date this past weekend to see Creed 3.
We sure had a break.
We're going to talk about Merab versus Jan first, and then we'll get into Creed 3, which I think is the much more exciting thing that we did this weekend.
I had a very boring...
The fights were good.
Seminar weekend.
The fights were good. You had a nice seminar with Walker on Saturday.
That day. And then all of a sudden at the end of the day, I was like, oh man, I have so much time to sit down and do nothing. This is nice.
The fights are on, baby. Some of them were good. But really the standout story of the weekend, of course, was Merab versus Jan. Merab, almost 50 takedown attempts.
The way he was using that single leg entry over and over, I loved just how easy he made that look. It's such a fundamental technique, and we rep it all the time at our gym, where I tell people, this leg in front, attack the leg, but with that single leg, you're going to have, these options, and that's what Merab did. He attacked the single leg well enough where he was you have to defend this. If you don't, then he would let go, or if he would try to finish it, or he would also use it to attack, break off, and he was winning that in the pocket space. We're talking about he might have problems. We're if you engage Peter Yan in a pocket through striking, he's gonna catch you with that hook. Right. But Merab, he was doing the good old fashioned fuck him, make him fight on one leg, and he would just release and come up into hooks and turn this little offline pocket fight, and it made Yan get stuck on this back pedal, and Yan, being the more of the conditioned striker, just couldn't get comfortable from that. Yeah, I loved how weaponized that attack was.
The single leg, it's not as successful in my opinion in wrestling or jiu-jitsu as it is in MMA, because in jiu-jitsu and wrestling you're always worried about somebody grabbing either your arms or your legs, so you have less things to monitor, and you can kind of stay light on your feet when you need to be, and move your hips when you need to. But in MMA, if you want to punch somebody with some power, what do you have to do with your feet? You have to fucking plant them. And when they're planted, they're very easy to fucking grab. Yeah. And I think that was one of the biggest openings that Merab saw and his camp saw, that I didn't think about going into this, is the fact that Peter is such a brutal, violent, and good boxer means that he would be planted on his front foot quite a bit. And same strategy that kind of bit the Diaz brothers in the back, people just started calf kicking them. Yeah. But if you're going to take a grappling approach, this is much more effective, obviously. Yeah. And it goes to show that percentage is not a good stat. Percentage for success of takedowns is not a good stat, because if you look at the percentage, Merab attempted 50 and only landed 8, so his percentage is so fucked up now, right? Yeah. But if you're always attacking a single leg, your opponent can't do much else other than defend the single leg.
And it was also, he wasn't recklessly attacking. It's he had an answer for every engaging strike Peter was throwing on the feet, and no matter what, he had a single leg off.
Well, think about the dynamics of the fight, too. I always think about Damian Maia versus Tyron Woodley, where Damian's just shooting over and over again. And because of the way Tyron is dealing with it, he's face planting Damian into the mat every time he defends a takedown. Yeah. Whereas this, Peter could not really defend. He had to put his back against the fence and then work out, So being smothered like that, it just looks different. It looks more dominant. It looks like you're actually doing something.
But Merab was slick about, he has such a good entry that, it freezes Jan, where, Jan goes, I can't think about anything except not getting taken down for right now. But Merab, he looked like a kid kind of opening up his Christmas present kind of early, where he would snatch in and just go, you could see him literally feeling Peter Yan start to adjust, and it was not today. Yep. But it's also he knew that if he wasn't going to defend it, he still had a takedown. And I love how he just he didn't even have the thought to finish the takedown most of those attempts. Yeah, and that's what made it so good.
Yeah, it was more about using the cage wall to set up the attacks. Yeah. Is what and we talked about it this week in grappling class, the pinning of the hip to the cage, and how vital it is to deal with either the shoulder or the knee that's pinning your hips to the cage. And I just felt every time Jan got off the cage wall, it was almost by Merab's design to put him on bigger shots. Now, that's not to say Jan didn't land some really clean, good shots of his own, but it was just so in my opinion, very one-sided throughout the entire fight.
It was so one-sided.
And it's the only time I've ever seen Jan look like that.
Yeah.
Jan's never been made to look a fool by anyone.
Mm-mm.
He lost a close fight to Aljo.
Yeah.
That some people think he might have won. And then he lost a fight to O'Malley, which a lot of people think he won.
Yeah.
Not me. And now he's like the victim of this one-sided beatdown from Merab.
But he seemed to accept this one more so than the O'Malley one.
Well, yeah, because it wasn't close.
Yeah, it wasn't close at all.
It's harder to be mad when, there's no chance you were robbed, you know, in your own mind. Like, I've seen fighters, and we've seen fighters being in this game as long as we have, where we thought they got their ass beat the entire fight. They are handed a decision by the judges, and they are elated. Even though they really shouldn't be. It's easier to lie to yourself when you have something to reinforce your lie with. Well, it's like, oh, the judges saw it that way. Or, the judges seem to agree with me, even though I got my ass beat all 5 rounds or all 3 rounds or whatever it may be.
Yeah.
And then we've seen people who have lost decisions that maybe they won 1 round, but it was still not very close, and they get super mad, to the point where their coach is DMing one of us on social media, threatening our lives and our livelihood. We've seen some shit, is all I'm saying. We've seen some shit in this game, is all I'm saying. But I just think that what's next for Jan, because it's 3 in a row now, and I still think there's no question that he's one of the best in the division. But what's next?
Yeah, would he and Cheeto make for a good fight? Or I guess he and...
I want Cheeto and Merab.
Oh, yeah.
Cheeto's on the hot.
Wait, who's Cheeto fighting next? Sandhagen?
Maybe. They already fought.
Did they?
Didn't they already fight? Did they? I don't think so. They may have already fought, or it may be booked. Yeah, Sandhagen's still out there too, right? Yeah. That's March 25th they're fighting.
Yeah.
Sandhagen and Vera are fighting on the 25th. Winner of that should fight Merab. Because now that Cejudo and Aljo's booked, they're not going to...
Yeah, they got to go for like an interim title fight, I guess.
Maybe.
Well, I kind of
if
feel...
Merab wins... Merab won't even take an interim title fight.
No, that's right. Weren't they talking about, like, he would fight Aljo, but it was kind of hinting at that after Cejudo, that Aljamain will be going to featherweight.
He was just saying, like... Yeah, he was just saying that Aljo's the champion and I'll be champion when Aljo decides he's going to move up. Mm-hmm. And together we're going to clear out this division. And it's just like, damn, that's fucking crazy. If you want a fucking shot at the champ, you gotta get through his henchmen.
Dude, that's how they laid it out, man. This is the best fucking tag team in bantamweight history.
Yeah, it might be. Yeah. I think Aljo's very underrated as a champion. I think he wins the Cejudo fight by like weird eye poke DQ, or maybe like Cejudo like sprays him in the face with acid and DQ or something. Like I just feel like this cursed title reign of his must continue weirdly. It can't just be a straight up good fight between him and Cejudo. It's got to be something weird, right? Who else is in here?
From the fight night. Let's see. Davey Grant had that.
Awesome, dude, against a Sun Sal.
Against a Sun Sal, yeah.
Super
nice
back
fist to
reverse inverted triangle. Yeah. That's pretty crazy.
That was wild. Alexander Volkov knocked out Romanov in the first round. Like that fight kind of just like started and stopped, and I was like, huh, all right. Well, I guess like I wasn't like. Volkov was good on the feet, but he's got really nowhere to be in the heavyweight division at the moment still. Nikita Krylov and Ryan Spann, I think we were messaging during that fight, and I was like, that was the wildest 3 minutes I've seen of grappling back and forth. Like, that fight was a fucking
it was
chaos.
like a no-gi super fight with, like, strikes thrown in the mix. Man. And, they were... at one point, Ryan Spann attempted a Kimura spinning back take, which is one of my favorite.
It was great, yeah. I was like, you gotta watch this.
It, but it's one of those things where
I've seen that series hit. Like actually, like since you pointed out the other day, I was like, oh man, like I've seen some guys hitting that like off their back. Like
if you've never looked at it, you're just like, oh, he spun to the back somehow using.
Well, I've always seen the Kimura trap, but like I don't put jiu-jitsu together well. Like that's why I've just always been like. It punches and kicks going together. I get that. Like how I see like jiu-jitsu guys chain. Stuff like that, I'm just like, oh, like,
and once you've been walk through it step by step. You can see it in a fight happening, or especially in jiu-jitsu. I mean, that's like, in my opinion, especially for the lower weight classes, that Kimura spin to the back escape / reversal is pretty popular. You don't see a lot of guys my size doing it, but I think it works better the stronger you are. The Kimura is known as kind of like a strong guy move, but yeah, Spann just made a fucking terrible error. He just dove into the guard with a strike without clearing the arms.
Yeah.
Or without clearing his arms over the legs. And just gets locked up in a super tight triangle. It was like he face first, Chris Benoit off the top rope, dove right into Krylov's cup, and like just put himself in that prime triangled position. You know, I mean, I thought that was pretty. It was pretty anticlimactic finish to an otherwise amazing fight, but I thought that the level of grappling was pretty awesome. I was listening to Jack Slack's podcast and he shit on this fight and called it terrible, and I was like, damn, really? That sucks. Yeah. He was just like, low level striking, low level grappling on display at the highest level. That's how bad 205 is.
I mean, I guess if you look at it that way, but me, I was like, God damn, that was fun to watch.
Yeah, it's fun as fuck. It's fun as fuck to watch. Bounce back over to...
we kind of come off as like NASCAR fans of like MMA. It's just like, cars go round and fast. Like, people do crazy shit and fight.
Oh, I'm that way. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah,
I'm that way. I love Luke Rockhold versus Paulo Costa. I thought that fight was awesome. Yeah. Even though I was very confused, both, you know, from a fight perspective and a little sexually because of, you know, these guys going at it in the ring, but, you know...
he had to go to Sunday morning service after that fight and be like, hey, God, I'm feeling kind of funny, man.
I mean, I like it whether it's in Madison Square Garden or the parking lots at Sheetz. Like, it's all fucking Gucci to me.
Dude,
when I do see something super high level that I recognize and can appreciate, I obviously love it. But, you know, I think that I'm kind of spoiled to always be, like, interested at least in a fight. The only fight that I think is boring is, like, when two guys are just in there, like, basically going at a sparring pace. That's when a fight is boring to me. Yeah. Is when two guys are doing a sparring pace in a real fight. And they're just way too relaxed. Mm-hmm. Like, Ngannou versus Lewis might be the most famous example, but there's plenty of fights like that. There were fights like that.
That's one of those fights I was at first bummed I was missing it because I was cornering someone, but then from what I heard, I was like, well, I've never watched it.
That was a crazy night because we were at we were at Gita's house, and it was a card where it was Ngannou versus Lewis, then Maia versus Woodley, then Jones versus DC.
Oh, wait, that was one of the pool party nights, right? Yeah. Oh, no, I was there for that. Yeah. I just wasn't... Oh, yeah, I think I just didn't pay attention to that fight. No.
You might not have. That was late in the night. The alcohol was flowing.
Yeah, Gita's pool parties were always wild.
They were very, very wild. Bouncing back over to the bantamweight rankings really quick, O'Malley's right there at 1. He's the backup fighter for that title fight, I bet. I'm willing to bet that's why they're icing him right now.
That makes sense.
It's because they want him around in case Cejudo pulls out or can't make weight or whatever, or Aljo gets injured. O'Malley's on standby.
Yeah.
So you could have Merab versus O'Malley if that doesn't work out. Yeah. If he doesn't end up filling in, he could do Merab versus O'Malley, which I think is a banger. Mm-hmm. You got Marlon Vera, you got Peter Yan, Sandhagen, Rob Font.
Did Jonathan Martinez break into the top 10 with that win over Said Nurmagomedov?
He's 14 now because Said was 15.
Okay, so he's just... Okay. Man, Jonathan Martinez...
versus Adrian Yanez would be the fight I want to see.
Yeah.
Umar versus like Ricky Simone or Song Yadong is possible.
I keep forgetting that Song is a third
who knows if Dominic Cruz is going to come back. So maybe they do Rob Font versus Peter Yan. Have they already fought?
I don't think so.
Yeah, I think Rob Font versus Peter Yan could be good. But yeah, I mean, we'll talk about this upcoming weekend's card after we talk about Creed.
Hi, welcome to Two White Guys Review Movies.
Two White Guys Review Movies with a twist. We actually know what we're talking about when it comes to
I know.
Film. All right, so this is our review of Creed 3, Creed Trace.
So I got to say this. I want to watch it again.
Me too.
Like, man, some people have said they hated it. Like, there are some people in the fight community that will also, like, people that, like, maybe take stuff, like, so serious they just can't enjoy a silly movie. Like, where me, I was like, okay, this is a movie about boxing. I'm going to sit down and view this from like Hollywood's perspective of fighting. And I went, you know what? They nailed a lot more fucking things than some movies that I've seen. Like, it was Michael B. Jordan's directorial debut. And I think he
directed his ass off.
He directed his ass off.
Yeah.
Like, and then he hired someone that forced him to be a better actor too. Like, being like,
it seemed like he was stepped up in this. Like, they gave him. He had very specific scenes where he was supposed to be like a more emotional Creed.
Yeah.
Than we've seen in the past, and there's a lot of ways you can get like cheap drama or cheap emotion out of a story. Like he could have had drama with his girlfriend, for instance. That would have been, or his wife rather. That would have been the easiest thing to do.
Yeah.
But they went like a completely different route with this movie.
Yeah.
And you can tell that Michael B. Jordan watched a lot of anime watching this movie.
Yeah.
He liked to watch a lot of anime. The movie opens with a back and forth narrative going between Adonis's childhood on the streets of Crenshaw, where he is basically a training partner / bag boy for Jonathan Majors' character Damien, and we don't know what's happened to Damien yet, but it's very clear that he's the more talented boxer of the two. And then it flashes forward all the way to Adonis Creed's retirement fight, which I think is just a little early in the series to be doing the whole retirement thing. I think that they did that in Rocky, and it was one of my least favorite things about the evolution of Rocky movies.
How old was Adonis supposed to be in this movie? They say 34 in the movie?
Yeah, he's 34 or 35.
Yeah, I think they tipped that towards someone like Andre Ward, who like retired and is like around like early 30s and went out on top. And he was one of the most talented boxers of all time.
Yeah, it opens with him fighting Ricky Conlon again, except for this time it's not for the light heavyweight championship, it's for the heavyweight championship of the world.
Yeah.
And Conlon is kind of beating his ass because it's clear that he's slowed down from getting beat up in the other movies. But it's just like, part of it is like, okay, I get it that Michael B. Jordan is 5'9", and that he's...
You want us to think he's a heavyweight.
You want us to believe somehow that he's a heavyweight. And most guys that are 5'9" in box do retire around 34, 35.
Yeah.
But heavyweights stick around a lot longer.
They do.
And, Jonathan Majors' character looked kind of actually like a light heavyweight fighter.
His movement in the movie impressed me, and even his mannerisms and like how his character would like swing moods and like talk to people. I was like, man, he just reminded me of every motherfucker that a person that is just a motherfucker by definition, like at a gym. Like,
we are going to save spoilers for the tail end of this, but right now we're just going to talk about like the characterization of the characters. I thought that Jonathan Majors is, of course, a standout actor in the movie. Yeah. And he did things that I've never seen in a movie that I've seen a billion times in a gym.
Yes. And you see the way he moved, the way he would shift his body, the way he would step back and read. It was very like he knew how to have a cadence. Where you see Michael Jordan was like ready to just do a combination on mitts and like shadow box something. Like it was wild to see someone look like they've actually boxed.
Yeah. And Jonathan Major, but the thing about that for me is that you can pick all that up with a sufficient trainer and a sufficient schedule.
If you have or if you just putting in the reps.
The behaviors.
Yeah.
The behaviors can only be learned by being in the gym. Mm-hmm. The way he takes his hand wraps off with his teeth. Yeah. The way when he's not using his mouthpiece, he turns it and puts it out of his mouth. That is something you can only know about if you see another fighter do it. Yeah. And so to me, it shows that he either watched a shitload of tape or he was actually in a fighting gym or has been in one for like a long... I mean, he's always been in good shape. He might have been in or around boxing for a lot longer than I know about. I didn't watch a lot of interviews on this movie or know a lot about the production of it other than I know Michael B. Jordan was taking his turn at director and that he loves anime. Yeah. And it became very obvious to me within 5 minutes of the movie starting that there was some mad anime shit going on.
I didn't catch it until they did the green-yellow room split along the wall, and I was like, oh, that's some anime shit. Like,
the dude, with the opening scene where he's fighting Ricky,
And then you see him going in between the shots.
He's going in between the shots, and every time he exits, he sees that Conlon's body is open.
That does make sense.
And that's like right out of Hajime no Ippo, which is like a boxing anime. Like the most famous boxing anime of all time.
That's not the one with like the metal arm.
No, that's from the same. That's called Megalobox.
Yeah,
it's from the same producer and creator of Hajime no Ippo.
I think I know what you're talking about. Like I've seen clips of it, and I was like, oh shit! Like they're jabbing at each other, and they talk.
Hajime no Ippo's the best boxing.
Right. It shows them like slipping past a punch, and it'll be like it'll zoom back in, and then I was always like, oh neat. Like for a cartoon, I was like, that's really cool.
Yeah, Megalobox is a good like fantasy version of boxing, but if you ever want to watch something that's really grounded in reality and has like a very high reverence for the sport of boxing,
there's this old anime, and I mean like from like 1978 or 9, and it's about boxing, and it's like this young like street kid who like pisses off an old drunk dude who happens to be like a boxing coach and has like a gym and a ring under a bridge that's like outside.
You are definitely talking about Hajime no Ippo, I believe.
No,
the original cut. Yeah, I mean, there's been 4 series of this show.
Oh, really? Okay, because this is like
there's a more modern one, and there's the original one.
Yeah, this is like a really old one, and it was like a movie though. Yeah, so
very possible.
I don't know if it was maybe.
The big 2 real combat sports animes out of Japan are Hajime no Ippo for boxing and Baki the Grappler for grappling and MMA. And Pride. Yeah, that shit is nuts. But yeah, within like 5 minutes of the movie, there's a lot of anime stuff going on, and there's a shot of the two main characters in the movie, Damien and Adonis, where you're talking about like you can see that Adonis is wearing a suit and he's in the hallway of the arena where all the fight posters of him are, and Damien is in the locker room by himself. Very minimal gear, very like kind of dark lit room
and like
comparison.
They catch
and there's
each
a wall in between them.
Like, through the wall. That scene, I was like, all right, I'm in on this.
There's some good directing in this movie for it to be somebody's first time directing.
Like he nailed a lot of like the scope of the venue, and it's like even stuff about the story. I just thought like they had enough Hollywood to make it a movie, but there were just a lot of like the backstory between the two. Like the probability of how that guy gets a title shot. Like there's a lot of similar cases in real life of like people had that similar thing that happened to Major's character, and they still fight, and they've made some like headlines, but it's never been like a world title shot. But I was like, they weren't so far fetched from like a lot of real headlines. And
not in the universe where Rocky happened.
No,
in the world where Rocky happens,
like you
got to think about like in the 70s.
You know what? I forgot. Like it's the Rocky universe. So they hand out people's fights differently.
Exactly. In the 70s, Adonis took a shot on basically a Willy Wonka type fight, a circus fight, really, because
it turned into one of the best fights ever.
It turned into this classic fight, even though the boxing sucks in that movie.
So bad. Talia saw like parts of Rocky 1 and 2 over Christmas when we were like, because they just play it nonstop during the holidays, and she was like, "Oh my god, how do they think this is boxing?" I was like, "Babe, there was a lot of cocaine around the time this movie came out."
It's more about the characters.
Yeah, like I was like, Talia, like watch it for like the character development, and I'm like, oh, like there's a lot of sincerity to like the type of person that Rocky is that you meet amongst people like in the fight community. Just like people are just like, just like to fight and get hit. I don't know, and like they're just goobers, and like that's all Rocky is, like a kind-hearted goober. And
you got to imagine that there would have been a lot of fights in the 80s, 90s, and then the early 2000s where they were trying to recreate that formula.
Yeah.
So people probably got title shots in this universe very differently, like you were saying, very differently than how it works in real life. But I will say this about Creed 3. It had the most realistic media portrayal surrounding a fight, like of a high-level boxing fight.
Yeah.
The
Stephen A. Smith part was actually like pretty cool. I was like, oh shit.
Well, that's because he's an actor. Like, you know, he's just acting on his show 90% of the time. It's not really not very far fetched for him to go do a fake segment on a. But you know, the first fight against Conlon takes place in DAZN, and then they go to a Showtime fight, and then the final fight takes place in a DAZN ring again, and it's real boxing commentators. Todd Grisham's in the film. The media personalities surrounding the fight, like Stephen A. Smith, etc. The Showtime presents, package,
They still have Stitch in the corner.
Like, that happened right at the end of the first act of the movie. Like, right at the end of the first act of the movie, like, Creed makes the decision that he's going to fight Damien, basically.
Yeah.
And it cut to black, and it was like Showtime Presents, and I was like, are they about to drop the title of the film? But they were doing like a real sports type deal, like they would for a real boxing fight.
Yeah, that was neat.
And it was really an interesting cut of the film, because it's like we left the movie for a little bit. And we got to see like the reality.
Well, because I'm also used to watching behind the scenes stuff.
We watch that shit all the time.
Yeah, and I was just like, wow. Like, and I was saying to you during the movie theater, I was like, dude, they fucking nailed this part. Like, and I was like, this really feels like a behind the scenes thing. For a fight coming up.
I looked it up, by the way. Mm-hmm. That Mythmaster mom lady.
Yeah, you know what
she was the trainer for Michael B. Jordan for this movie.
Yes.
So that's probably why he looked better boxing wise in this movie than he has in the past.
Yeah, she was a really well-known mythologist, as people say.
He's still a little stiff, but he looked a lot better.
Yes,
he looked a lot better. I think this is the best movie out of the Creed series. Mm-hmm. I think
to me, I'll say this: I'm not a big sports movie guy, but it is my favorite sports movie now. Like, and I'm just like, I want to go watch this again. Like, still elevated. Because it makes it just that much more enjoyable. You get lost in it, of course. I was like, I really.
You had like 8 beers while we were there.
No, I had 4. Thank you.
Those Alamo beers ain't fucking cheap either. You were slamming those suckers.
I had 4 Red Oaks. I have Red Oak once a fucking month. All right, let me live my life. All right.
Oh, I wasn't mad at you. I was like, oh, Trevor must be really enjoying this movie.
I'm having a blast. I was like, oh, what a productively lazy weekend. Like, I just watch seminars go down at my gym. But no, I really want to watch it again, and I think probably as soon as it comes to streaming, I'll probably do like a Creed 3 night at the gym. Awesome. Like, I think.
Do you have a score out of 1 to 10?
I mean, for me, like 10. Yeah, 100%. Like, I thought like that was like a 10.
Nice.
And, like, I mean, I watched some. I can sit through some really bad martial arts fight movies, so I'm just like. Haha, cool. But for this, I was like, man, I got lost in it thinking like it felt like an actual boxing match was about to go down.
Yeah.
And then how Michael B. Jordan did his touch of like, even like in like the final fight, I said it reminded me of like a fight scene from Spider-Man, but like it was boxing.
Yeah.
And I was just like, man, I just felt kind of taken back. I was like, wow, what an enjoyable fucking movie around like, you know, like porn stars, maybe they watch porn in their free time. I don't know, but I'm not always trying to like watch like unnecessary fight movies,
especially
and, like,
when it's not very good.
I compare it to like watching The Ultimate Fighter. People will be like, "Do you watch that?" I'm like, "Fuck no," because there's so much unnecessary drama that you can see that relates to real life. I'm like, I don't want to hear those fucking dudes bicker. Like, I don't like. But this had enough realism to get caught up in it and go like, "Oh shit!" Like, this is a headline like I would like to see one day. Like, this is neat. Like, 10 to 10. Like, I can't wait to watch it again.
I think I'm going to say 8.1 or 8.2, only because it's definitely better. It's definitely better than an 8, but it's not quite up there with a 9 out of 10 movie for me. But I will say, as far as sports movies go, especially fight films that are not trying to be martial arts films, but fight films, this is definitely one of the best that I've ever seen.
It was a fight film,
if not the best. It's definitely very, very, very high up there for me.
Yeah.
So that being said, we'll talk about a little bit of spoilers. So if you don't want to hear spoilers for Creed, you can fast forward to the end of the show. I'll put a timestamp when we start talking about UFC again. But I thought that there was some cheap ways out they could have took with the movie.
Interesting.
That they didn't take. For instance, like I said, they could have had some drama between him and his wife, but him and his wife have a very good relationship.
I think
in the movie.
they covered that in like the second.
That's true.
Kind of like they
tightened
it up. Yeah.
That's true. And the second movie is opponent-wise like equal, but the story of 2 is not as good as this one.
No.
Drogo and Drogo's son are good foils for B, because you see it when they spar in this movie again that he's just an imposing physical challenge for Michael B. Jordan because he's a real heavyweight.
Yeah.
You know, like this is a guy who definitely would look
like
correct.
A heavyweight. Yeah.
He would look correct in there against Deontay. And I kept thinking like, we kept seeing all these boxers in the movie, like Canelo and Adrian.
They always relate Adonis to being a smaller heavyweight,
because he was a light heavyweight
Rocky.
champ.
Yeah. And they talk about like Rocky being 195 pounds for heavyweight fights, and I think they relay that to Adonis.
Yeah, but there's like a dozen real boxers and real boxing personalities in this movie, and not a single heavyweight. And that's by design.
Yes.
They don't want you to see what Michael B. Jordan looks like next to Deontay Wilder or Tyson Fury.
Next to Terrence Crawford, he looks like a heavyweight.
Right, dude, next to Terrence Crawford, they look the same size.
They really did look that far
scene
apart.
where they were sparring, I was like, anybody who knows the sport is going to be like, that's obviously Terrence Crawford, who is not anywhere close to a heavyweight. But you see it. Damian is physically imposing as Drogo is, because he's obviously ripped up and in shape. But he's also not. He's not extremely towering over Michael B.
He had like a replication of Mike Tyson's build. He looked like he's like a 6 foot tall Mike Tyson instead of 5'10". And I'm just like, but even how he moved, I was like, can someone make a fucking Mike Tyson movie around this guy, please? Please.
Yeah, he was a good.
I would love to see Majors rip cocaine and punch prostitutes.
He had everything that a good antagonist needs, which is that Adonis learned a lot of his early stuff from this guy. Yeah. So they had a very similar style. He was physically just a little stronger, a little bigger, and seemingly a little faster, and willing to fight dirty. Yeah. Yeah, that was one thing I really appreciated.
I liked a lot. Where I was like, oh, he's a dirty motherfucker.
Well, I mean, cool. he does all this time in prison because they beat up. I guess there was an implication, though it's not outright said, that there was more than just physical abuse going on with that guy that they beat up at the beginning of the movie. Yeah. There's some
a lot
sexual
of dark shit.
Yeah, there's almost some sexual element to it that they don't outright get into in the movie, but it's very heavily implied that this guy beat them as they were children and then did something else to them. And so they beat him almost Adonis almost beats him to death. Damien goes to jail. He does all this time in prison. He gets out. And one of the first things he says to Adonis when they start talking about boxing is my clock's ticking. I'm older than you. I'm 3 years older than you. So this is it for me. I have to go. And he fought like that. He fought like he did not give a fuck if he got disqualified. Yeah. He fought like he did not give a fuck if he lost 8 or 9 teeth in the fight. He fought in a way where it's he also fought in a way that was sport appropriate, because while you can get away with more shit in MMA than you can in boxing, if you have a high level of gamesmanship in boxing, you can be extremely dirty and get away with a lot of stuff. Mm-hmm. And I think the only time they tested the bounds of legality was maybe on the step-in knee that he hit, or maybe the elbow. But that elbow could be a legit hook that just came up short.
No, and that happens all the time.
The way he fought was very
I've seen
good.
Guys like Tony Jeffries give breakdowns on how boxers would throw on it, how they would punch past people. Yeah. Just to hit them with the elbow. And my old boxing coaches talked about that. They would run into guys that would try to punch past them on purpose just to make them run into that elbow.
I think if you actually like boxing, the thing you're going to complain about the most in this movie is Damien's general approach to boxing around arm punches. Yes. Because he was able to arm punch people and just destroy them. And
I don't know if man, I'll say I've been punched in the shoulder. I've had my shoulder punched out of socket. I've seen it a lot actually. It's it happens a ton in boxing as an amateur.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people who actually box are if they haven't been hit like that, they're oh, that wouldn't work. Yeah, but it's if somebody's jabbing, you slip the jab and their arm's extended, and you hit them with an uppercut right here,
that shit's popping out.
It could do some damage, especially if you're as strong as Jonathan Majors looked in that movie. Yeah. And, we just saw Michael Venom Page this past weekend at Bellator kick someone right here and push their kneecap back by just destroying their patelis. Horrible their patella tendon. Yeah. And basically move their kneecap and break it apart. So these guys are capable of doing some otherworldly shit at the high level. Some of these guys are built different. And he set up Caesar early in the movie by making him duck into it, and he knew that he had nicked him there. Mm-hmm. Yeah, they really went all in on the arm attack in the movie. I think that's the part of the boxing aspect that requires the most suspension of disbelief.
But that little bit of like how they did a Hollywood portrayal of it to make him the bad guy, I was like, spot on.
But in the final fight with Adonis, he didn't do anything dirty.
He starts off dirty.
How?
He punches him in the arm.
Once.
Yeah, but then and then he doesn't.
But that's not dirty.
Yeah.
That's a legal shot.
Like Adonis, I think, was like making it a point to like be tight and stick to straight shots.
Yeah,
and stuff
but
like
they didn't address that in the corner or anything. They had plenty of
not.
corner dialogue, and they saved
that
it
was
all
kind
for
of worthless.
inspirational shit. They're actually the last round. The Duke has a couple of lines before the last round. Duke's really good in this movie compared to the second movie. Also,
yes,
they
did a great job with him as a character.
He's good in the first movie, and you understand the dynamic between him and Adonis. But that second movie,
he kind of falls off how
of
he popped up in the flashback when they were kids. I was like,
and he's wearing the '90s hat.
Damn,
In the 90s,
I was like, damn, that makes it
it
a way cooler backstory. That he's because he did it plays he trained with his dad back in the day, but know that he also knew that he was running around fucking off and doing stuff goes to that dynamic of the coach and fighter relationship.
He also knew how good Damien was and still didn't want him around.
Yes,
he knew how good he was
because he was he's dangerous as fuck.
You don't want he knew the vibes from him immediately when he got him, and that scene where that's another scene where I was just so blown away by Jonathan Majors in this movie was when Duke is laying into Adonis the second time after he really hurt Caesar. He's laying into Adonis about Damien the second time. He thinks Damien's gone, but Damien forgot his bag, so he has his gloves like this and his mouthpiece is hanging out, and I'm like, oh my god, I've seen so many people walk like that in the boxing gym.
And it was his line and how he snapped it.
Don't stop talking now, dude.
Yeah, and I was like, damn.
Yeah, dude. That shit was so good. But yeah, Duke has some good lines before the last round. There's a montage. They do the first 3-ish rounds. We see that. And then they do the cut to the abandoned stadium, cut to the cage ring, the prison ring.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden that's the end of the 11th round.
Yeah. And I was like, all right, they did that very well. And I was different. That is something that I haven't seen in a fight movie, but I feel like others have tried to replicate it.
They do it in Rocky.
Yeah, they
just show the ring card girls as the punches,
and they do the blurs going by.
But I've never seen it done with such a level of theatrics.
Yes,
as in this movie,
it was a fun level of theatrics that still worked with it.
Yeah, exactly, because it was really just them in there. They were really illustrating a point about boxing that I think rings true more so for boxers than it does for people who watch it, which is that it's very lonely, and that there's a inherent, even when you're surrounded by love and a good team and all the money, there's still something very inherently lonely about what you go through in there because it is just you at the end of the day. And I thought that they did a good job of portraying that conflicted aspect of Michael B. Jordan's character. Where it was the less he was boxing and training, the more alone he felt.
The last time I saw that portrayed well was Warrior. When they
Warrior's
had
great.
brother by himself. And that movie, I was they did so many things right. They had the enough Hollywood that's unbelievable. Okay, movie, we'll go with it. But
what do you think about Southpaw?
Dude, I haven't seen that.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I haven't seen Southpaw.
I think Southpaw is there. It was the answer to Warrior for boxing.
Okay.
So it takes a kind of slightly similar approach.
I think it's streaming on something.
And I think one thing they did in Southpaw that they recreated in this movie was more of those realistic emotional aspects of the characters. Instead of these superhuman warriors, it's really these guys fight because they're trying to project something.
Fighters are some vulnerable ass people.
Yeah, after 5 years of being around them all the time now, I can safely say that they're probably the most sensitive people that you can be around.
There's a lot of emotional places you go to.
And that doesn't necessarily always mean a negative thing.
No.
Being sensitive to others' thoughts and feelings in your surroundings makes you a better fighter because you're alert. You're tuned in to what people are all kinds of stuff. But yeah, they're very volatile and sensitive bunch, and they did a good job of displaying the vulnerability of the situation with Michael B. Jordan. The scene where his mom dies is insanely horrible. It's like watching a dog killed in front of you, essentially. Especially when she starts calling him Apollo.
Yeah.
I was like,
no, yeah, your boy, your boy had to get a Red Oak to choke on to make the tears come from something that aren't his emotions.
This beer's a little salty.
This beer's just, I'm choking on this beer. This is not my emotions coming forth from my very fragile ego.
It's gotta be. I'm sure there's a country song about tears in my beer or something like that.
Watching someone with a stroke die, you're like,
but it's a good movie, guys, is what we're trying to say. If you're still watching us ramble about this movie, you probably have already seen it. So if you liked it, let us know. If you hated it, let us know, because we definitely have heard from some people at the gym who didn't like it at all. Yeah. But we really, really liked it, and
so I was talking
had a good time. More importantly,
I was talking to Adrian about it, Coach Adrian, and he was saying that, like, from his viewpoint, if you talk to him, like, he grew up around boxing. His dad was a judge and referee up in, like, the New York games and stuff like that, and he has a really unique take on boxing, and where he's, like, never done it, but he grew up like how he talked about, like, or it's like when you talk about pro wrestling as a kid, like, that's how he sounds about boxing. I was like, oh, that's neat. He said that he loved Creed 3. Like, his kids hated it. They're like, Dad, that was so dumb. And he was like, damn. Like, and I think because he also saw, like, what they tried to make fairly true about it, like that emotional side of it.
Yeah, definitely. I thought it was a good balance of, like, the things we go to the movies for, the lack of reality, the escape, if you will, and the truth of fighting, and the truth of boxing, and the truth of brotherhood and friendship. And even at the end of the movie, there seems to be a resolution of peace, for him, and not just him and Damien and him and his wife and him in boxing, but there's the seed being planted that his daughter will also want to do this. Want to do this. And the scene where he's training his daughter in the gym is
so choked up.
Good.
Oh, God.
I couldn't believe they didn't do more with that, but that one scene is so... Yeah. It's so good. You feel what the director wants you to feel, which is really the talent of a director. Is like, you ever watch a movie and you can tell they're trying to do something? Usually this happens more with comedy than anything else. But you can tell they're trying to be funny. Yeah. You can tell that the director wanted this to be funny. But whether it's the acting, directing, the setting, the lighting, something about it just makes it not funny. There's a lot of times in movies where they want you to feel an emotional connection for a character, but they haven't done the work of making you care about that character. We've had 3 movies to care about Adonis. Yeah. If you're watching these movies, you probably care a little bit about him. And then his daughter, how can you see that little girl acting her ass off as a deaf girl and not give a shit,
Was she acting or was she deaf? I couldn't tell.
I literally didn't even look it up, but I wouldn't be surprised if she was actually deaf, because her sign and everything, like the way she moved and everything was spot on. And that scene where he's training her is it goes to show that even though this was his first outing as a director, he already understands, like, what you need to do as a director to get the point across, to get the moment across. So, Creed 3, we loved it. Go see it. Yeah. Support it. Maybe there will be a Creed 4. Maybe they won't.
It's like Back to the Future. When he walks by the movie theater, it says Jaws 37.
Right, yeah.
Like, they're just going to, like, change the name, so there'll really be a Rocky 22. But it's going to be Rocky Adonis Jr.'s best friend's wedding.
Well, it's like the new Scream movie. They called the last one just Scream.
Yeah.
And then...
Dude, okay, Talia and I walked out of it.
Really?
Yeah.
I like Jack Quaid a lot. So
we went to go see it. Maybe I just wasn't feeling it. Like, the acting just felt so forced. And then Arquette, what's her name? Or no,
Courtney Cox.
Okay, sorry, Courtney Cox. Yeah, okay, Arquette's
David Arquette.
David Arquette.
They're divorced in the movie,
but not in real life. Are they together in real life still?
No. They're divorced in real life as well. Oh, yeah,
okay.
They were. Yeah, she was Courtney Cox Arquette for a while.
That's right. Okay, I was like, damn, did I just make something up in my head? Anyways, she looked like a fucking goblin. Like, her face with her plastic surgery when she came on the screen.
She's not done well.
I was still fairly close to having a stroke. B, maybe I just couldn't handle it. See, I just couldn't look at her on the screen. Like I was like, Talia, is this a real person? Is this a deep fake?
I don't want to get too.
She looked like Slender Man's sister with like eye holes. Like, what did she do to her face?
I don't want to get too into psychology here, but I feel like she wants
to be a cat person.
I feel like, as someone who grew up watching Friends and was very invested in Friends with my mom when I was a kid, that she was probably, when the show started, considered the most like traditionally beautiful woman
I can see
out
that.
of all of them. And then as the show became more and more, they started putting Jennifer Aniston in more scenes with no bra on, and Jennifer Aniston became known as the hot friend. And I'm sure it's hard being
bathing themselves in baby blood.
Second fiddle.
Aniston.
I mean, if you look at her now and you look at
her, Courtney Cox like,
now,
man,
it's like,
who left Courtney in the microwave?
If Jennifer Aniston has had work done, it has been a lot better of quality than the work.
She got some of that South American work.
I didn't think I did.
Sorry,
not,
I just had to say, like, I thought that movie.
I didn't enjoy Scream 5. Parentheses too much. I thought it was kind of better than 4 and 3, which I think are some of the worst movies of all time. So it's not like a huge step up. I love Jack Quaid. I fucking love him. Anything he's in, I will watch. One was he? He's the male lead in Scream. He's the one who's like, he's the one who's dating the main girl at the beginning.
I remember, like, there were a bunch of teenagers and they were all talking about.
He's the white guy in the movie. He's the white guy. He's Huey from The Boys. He's Dennis Quaid's son.
That's right. Oh fuck.
Yeah. Anything he's in, I will watch. And then, spoiler alert for Scream 5. If you haven't seen Scream 5, skip 30 seconds. It turns out he's the killer at the end of the movie, or he's one of the killers.
Oh, I knew that right off the bat. Like,
I thought that was pretty weird.
Dude, it was pretty evident. Like,
normally they're a little bit more creative, right?
There seemed like there's no creativity. Like, they were like, we're coming out of a pandemic. We need a Scream movie, and they just kind of made an AI write a fucking movie.
Yeah,
that's what it felt like.
It wasn't phenomenal, but it was serviceable.
Is the new Wednesday Addams girl in the new Scream that I
Jenna Ortega? She's in that one too. She's in Scream.
Was she?
She's the younger sister. Yeah, she's the one that I think she's the one that gets stabbed a bunch at the beginning of the 5th one. So she's like in a hospital for a lot of the 5th one, and then she's hurt for the remainder of the movie. When they're in the house, she's in the hospital gown. David Arquette dies trying to get her out of the hospital in Scream 5. But anyway,
I didn't even get to that part. I don't know. Sorry.
Jenna Ortega is in the new one as well, but the new one follows the 2 survivor characters. The point I was going to make is that they realized that you can't just fucking call it Scream.
Yeah.
They went back to Scream 6 for this one because they realized that like people are like getting tired of like reboot.
So this one is actually okay. This newest one is.
I mean, I hear it's really good.
You haven't seen it?
No, I haven't seen it yet. But I hear it's great. I love the idea of
for a
Scream
Sunday movie review.
I love the idea of a Scream movie where Ghostface is on a subway train killing people while New Yorkers just watch and think it's like
TikTok it.
They think it's probably something for TikTok.
Yeah, you know? Like, look at these kids in a TikTok video.
So I think it's like a different type of Scream movie. So yeah, I'd be interested. But the point was like eventually, yeah, they might start calling these movies Rocky again. Like, you know, they might start calling them Rocky Creed 6 or something like that. Like, imagine if they get as far fetched as the Rocky movies do, and then Creed has to fight like a cyborg Rocky. Like, you know, or fights like a clone of Rocky.
I can see that. Yeah. He has to fight him in the metaverse.
Dude, they're fighting this. This new Indiana Jones movie is like Harrison Ford's gonna be 90% CGI. Like,
yeah, I saw that. What the fuck?
He looks like he's gonna be CGI in like 90% of the scenes.
Like they just CGI'd his face onto a body double.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, like that looks like what they're doing with movies.
So why not do it with Rocky and have Creed and Rocky fight?
Look at what they did for the greatest martial arts movie of all time, The One, and the technology has jumped. Hey, I think The One has led us to deepfake technology, but that's a conversation for a different day.
We should definitely do a movie night at the gym of The One.
I'm so fucking in on that.
Maybe a double feature, because I think The One's only like an hour and 28 minutes long.
It's not that long.
Barely a movie.
It's a couple cool fight scenes.
But Jason Statham's in it. There's a lot of cool people that make it worth watching. But the UFC is back this weekend. I think you might miss most of it.
I am totally missing this whole fucking card.
Well, at least we can talk about it. Yeah. At least we can talk about our ideas.
Like, if
our dreams and our beliefs.
Let's see. So this fight card starts at 5. If so, the fights that we're at should be done at the latest are at 5.
It's a London card.
If they're over at like 2 or 3, I might be able to get in town to catch hopefully either Justin. Like honestly, I might be able to catch Gaethje, Fiziev, or I'd be able to get in town by the time like Leon Edwards is walking. If everyone's like going to decision, like
yeah, that sucks.
Fuck.
Okay, we recorded an entire segment where we talked about the UFC card in depth, and then we realized after we were done that the memory card had filled up and we missed out our entire discussion of the card. So we're going to go back, run through our thoughts one more time on this UFC card. It might be a little less detailed than we normally do because we literally just did it.
Goes to a draw. Maya O'Neal, someone dies because the cage door flies open. Nelson versus Barberena. Barberena gets a 3rd round omoplata submission. Justin Gaethje Fiziev. That also goes to a draw from lack of action. And then I believe we said that Leon Edwards wins via 1st or 2nd round submission.
Flying triangle.
Yeah.
That was what we said during the pre-fight discussion.
You guys missed it, but I think
we went really in depth.
You
on
know,
this one.
but you know, we also reflected. And we're glad that God smited us of the previous discussions. So let's start anew.
Yeah, there are some fights we're looking forward to on this card. Juliana Miller is returning from her layoff since she won the Ultimate Fighter. Jai Herbert is fighting once again in London. It is weird to have a London card without Patty and Molly. We're not sure what the deal is there, but it feels a little weird.
Keeping them on the back burner for something.
Something big, I think. Yeah, Makwan Amirkhani fighting Jack Shore is a setup fight for Jack Shore to further cement him as a threat in this weight class here at featherweight. We will see. We will see what it looks like. Should be an easy fight for him. But I like Mr. Finland a lot. Hope he does well. We were talking about Marvin Vettori and Dolidze. We said that, Dolidze is a wizard when it comes to the grappling and also not a joker when it comes to the striking either.
Very slick counters.
Yeah.
Very comfortable in front of somebody.
I know guys that have been training for like 10 years in jiu-jitsu that avoid some of the things that Dolidze does because they're too technical, too hard. And he's doing them in an MMA fight where you have to do all of that and worry about getting punched in the face at the same time. I think he's just better technically all around than Marvin. Mm-hmm. Marvin's strength is his strength. His physicality, his pressure, toughness, his aggression.
Being able to put people into a cage and keep them there.
And you were saying that if this goes to a decision, you think it's just Marvin from pressing forward, being a buzzsaw.
Yeah, we would see Dolidze probably setting up submission attempts, setting up escapes, but Vittorio's be like, no, fuck you, my friend, and then just goes smash, and just doesn't do anything to get submission, doesn't do anything to get to cause any damage, but does enough to show control and just negate. Like it'd be one of those man, we really wish Dolidze could have gotten an armbar off his back, but instead it's armbar failed, triangle, not even getting to that point, but just Vettori just being a fucking dog. A dog and just smush him.
I think that Dolidze will give Marvin the same problems that Izzy did in their second meeting. So I'm interested to see how Marvin adjusts.
If Marvin wins, everyone's gonna be sad that he's still in the top 5. It'll be one of the
if he wins, he has to fight Strickland and loser leaves the division.
That's it.
Casey O'Neill should be an easy fight for her against Jennifer Maia. Maia's good in game though, so we'll see. It's women's MMA. It's flyweight. Anything can happen now at flyweight. There's a
want a title shot? Beat Jennifer Maia.
There's a big open landscape now with Blanchfield, Grasso, Shevchenko. Shevchenko losing has created a little bit more interest for me in this division. So I'm interested to see who's going to be on the horizon. Should she win the belt back, or for whoever's next for Grasso? Because I think they're probably almost assuredly going to do a immediate rematch for Valentina. Barberena versus Nelson. I was saying that, I was thinking D-Rod is a better fight for Nelson because D-Rod has slightly worse grappling than Barberena. Barberena's got just enough grappling to, I think, keep it on the feet and give Gunnar some fits. So, Gunnar is a guy who I thought would be, at one point I thought he would be the world champion. And then he kind of came up against Damian Maia, and I was like, maybe not. Then he got knocked out by Ponzinibbio. He's never quite been active enough or looked the same in any fight since then. So I'm really thinking that Barberena can make this violent and make it a struggle, and probably pick up the win unless we see like a flash of the old Gunnar Nelson. That guy who, when he touched your back, it just drowns you.
Yes.
It just seemed like there was no hope of getting rid of him. And from what I hear from people who have rolled with Gunnar, he's like superhumanly strong in the grappling. Like, you grapple him and it feels like you're grappling a heavyweight.
Yeah.
So, we'll see. Gaethje versus Fiziev. This is probably the one we talked the most about just now. And it sucks because we had, I thought, some really good commentary on this one.
And I already forgot what we said.
Well, you know, the crux of the discussion was certainly around Fiziev being way more like proven in the stand up, but with Gaethje just being able to take people out of their comfort zones and being able to make them act out of character by just being Gaethje.
Yes.
By being Gaethje.
And you said the Gaethje zone is what he likes to put people into, and they kind of start to wither and welt. But
the cycle of violence.
Yeah.
You know, this is a guy who's never walked into a UFC cage and walked out without a bonus. I mean, this is a guy who...
Crazy feat.
Yeah, he doesn't just like to fight and do well. He likes to make it as gritty as possible. I think Chandler's probably got the same stat, but when you look at how long those guys have been in the UFC, Gaethje is far more impressive. He's been there for like 5 years now, and 5 or 6 years now, and he's never left without $50,000 extra. You know, knockout of the night, multiple performances of the night, multiple fights of the night.
Really interesting to see him go against someone with such an accomplished striking background. With Fiziev's 200 Muay Thai fights and countless
Can't keep up.
titles. Like, you know, I think it's one of those where he also knows, he's like, okay, Justin will try to fight me at my own game. Like, he's like, I think that he sees Justin as someone that will be bringing out a fight that he is kind of just like, all right. I think he has a great grasp of how Gaethje's going to fight, and Fiziev might kind of welcome a little bit of a backpedal, kind of just like a stick to interrupt, a step back to find a counter that really matters. Like, risky to do is Gaethje because you know he'll just keep coming and coming and coming, and he won't stop on the way in. But he definitely wants to pull Gaethje into a counter elbow or knee.
Yeah, and what we're saying is that once you start hitting Gaethje, he gets easier to hit, but his approach gets wilder and wilder to the point where it's like hard to predict him and hard to like do anything but brawl because of the way he starts fighting essentially. But if you have your range and your timing figured out and you start hitting him and you don't stop hitting him, he takes a lot of punishment. And we haven't seen him take that much punishment in many of his recent fights because
since like the Poirier and Alvarez finishes, he really tightened up his game, and he knew, he was like, okay,
really
I don't have to get hit by everything, but he knows when he gets hit, that's his best window to give back.
Yeah, exactly.
You know, and the Michael Chandler fight was a great example where he was like, oh, I can't fight like I usually should because Michael Chandler was going to beat him if he fought like
and meet him on his terms.
Yes.
Yeah, beat him on his terms, and that's a pretty crazy feat to make Justin Gaethje readjust his strategy at all. We were talking about how in this one, really Gaethje could really utilize the cage wall and hold Fiziev there and melt him, but he's not going to do that. We know pretty damn well
that
he doesn't do that.
If he puts people on the cage wall, he keeps them in the boxing pocket and a low kick. Like he does a great job of his inside and outside low kicks and calf kicks from the pocket. But
I miss when he used to low kick people from the plum.
Right.
I miss when that was the thing.
But if he goes into that kind of fight with Fiziev, like he's immediately put him in Fiziev's like best world. But it gives Gaethje so many openings to at least like if he decides to wrestle, like that's his best spot to really stop Fiziev. But Fiziev is no fucking slouch with the grappling, but is he a collegiate wrestler? No. Nope. Like, will he still have like some openings? Like, yeah. Like, sadly, like if Gaethje's best bet to beat Fiziev is with his grappling, but we're not going to see that
unless he knocks him down. If he knocks him down, he'll get on top.
Yes,
but he won't take people down. Or
he does do a good job of falling back up just to do damage.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Then we have the main event: Kamaru Usman versus Leon Edwards in a rematch. Of course, Leon Edwards hit that Cinderella story kick that you missed? You looked away from the screen for 1 second?
Well, yeah, I got up at that last groin strike, and I was like, all right, I'm going to go pay the bar tab. Got to go, I guess. And then as soon as I get up and turn around, and I'm like, what? And I just see him falling, and I'm like, no. No. Like, really? I just watched that whole fight for a fucking miracle to happen, and then I fucking miss it with 30 seconds left. Around. Like, literally, people at the gym that week are like, are you okay? Did something happen? I was like, yeah, I just, missed this head kick. And just fucking
I didn't get to be in on the moment with everybody else.
I just missed the moment.
I was late to the party, late to the bus stop. We were talking about how, with Leon Edwards, the cat is out of the bag for Kamaru, essentially. Like, Kamaru needs to have a sense of urgency in this fight. Mm-hmm. He can't fight like he's chilling. Yeah. And he was fighting a lot like he was chilling in the last one.
Mm-hmm. And he felt too comfortable with his pace. He got surprised by Leon Edwards' takedown in the first, and that woke up. He was like, oh, motherfucker, I'm not letting you do that. And then wrestle-fucked him for 20 some odd minutes, after that.
Yeah. And then in the last round, he just didn't have a lot of urgency to take the fight back to the ground.
No, yeah.
And wanted to entertain the kickboxing fight, thinking that he had broke Leon. And maybe in that fourth round, he had broken Leon, but Leon was persistent. And to me, it's not like Leon showed me enough in that fifth round to make me think he can just straight up win this fight. Yeah. He just landed one shot in a fight in a round where he was kind of just lackadaisically throwing shots, trying to hope for a miracle, and he got one. Mm-hmm. So I still tend to favor Usman in this fight, but we've not seen Usman since he was knocked out, obviously. And when you get knocked out that bad, you don't know how you're going to come back. Some guys come back with a lot of fear. Mm-hmm. And I think if you come back in this fight with a lot of fear and you're dancing around on the outside, trying to avoid getting hit, you'll probably lose a boring kickboxing fight to Leon. Or if you're overly anxious to get the takedown and you start telegraphing, Leon knocks you out and the fight's over early. It knocks you out again and the fight's over early. And that would be very, very telling for the rest of his career. But if he comes out here and looks better than ever, then I don't think Leon has a chance. No. I think Leon...
And this brings up Usman 2.0. That's going to be a scary motherfucker.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. That's the... Is this Usman's GSP moment? Where he loses, comes back and wins, and then after that, never looks touchable again. Right. That is the most interesting thing about this fight. And I think that just that dynamic of... Here's a guy who has beaten you. Here's like one of the only two men on earth who've ever beaten you. And he knocked you out for your belt, and now you have to fight him in London instead of at Elevation. You have to fight him in London, so you can assume Rocky's going to be just a little bit better. Yeah. And maybe it's enough. Maybe it's enough, the combined factors of how good Leon's striking is, how worried Kamaru might be about the knockout, and the fact that it's not at Elevation. Those three things might be enough to change the entire fight.
C-level Leon.
In Leon. Yeah,
C-level Leon.
London Leon might be built different. Some people fight very different in their hometown, especially when they're the champion. And, Michael Bisping...
like we talked about earlier, if Leon gets that up kick going early, we could see, maybe that's the change in the fight. We could see him stick and move. Yeah, I was talking about
the front kick up the middle... that front kick in the middle is nice because when you pick your leg up, they don't know if you're going to the body, if you're going to the head, or if you're throwing to the leg. Mm-hmm. You can really vary your targets with that, especially if you're really good with your lead foot. Most guys to get a lot of power, they need to use the rear, but some guys that, like Leon, that have been kicking for so long, they can hit just as hard with the lead as they can with the rear. Some guys are even better with the lead than the rear, would you say? Some guys
they know how to use it just as a jab. But now, they'd have a jab to the head, they have a jab to the body. Exactly. They have another jab to the body, and they have a jab to the leg.
And it's a great tool to switch with. Yeah. It's a great tool to switch with.
Well, Leon is already a very talented southpaw, and really knows how to kind of keep it a stalemate by just circling off to that power side. And he does a great job of using inside low kick to more attack and then step out. He uses his left hand to really make the angle, and that's what made Usman bite on the first place. Correct. How well he just always steps southpaw right with that cross. Yeah.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, that's it. We'll be back. I think Trevor's going to miss most of this card, like we said earlier, but we'll probably have a chance to at least catch him up on the highlights. And next week we'll be back talking about the results of this London card, and we'll be talking about all things UFC. If you appreciated our ramblings about films and our review of Creed, etc., then please leave a comment telling us your favorite fight film or favorite boxing movie, favorite martial arts movie. I'd love to, maybe get some suggestions on some new stuff for us to watch.
Yeah.
And we can talk about it on the show after. That would be great. So we're going to get out of here, guys, and head over to the gym. But until we see you again, enjoy yourselves and the fight.